Dan, thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. Welcome to the Target ALS annual meeting.
Thanks. It's great to be here. It's great to be in person, actually, and have the opportunity to actually talk to people rather than just look at their faces.
Yeah, we're lucky too. We have people virtually joining us as well.
Yeah.
I was interested to talk to you about the science of ALS, specifically around ASOs. I know that that's an area of specialty for you. Can you tell me, what is an ASO? What it's so important to us is for people at home to understand the science of ALS and to understand, what's going on with the advancements in research and what are the promises ahead.
So ASOs, to start with your first question, ASOs are a class of molecules. They're typically fairly large, but they are actually classified as small molecules by the FDA. And there are two flavors of them. They're the ones that prevent gene expression, and they're the ones that modulate gene expression, generally in a positive sense. So many of the trials that you've been hearing about, SOD1, C9orf72, ataxin, those are all GapmeR ASOs that knock down the expression of the gene. Spinraza, which is not an ALS drug, is an example of a splice modulator, and QurAlis is also working on a splice modulating ASO targeting STAFMN2.
Is there an analogy that you could give of how an ASO works?
So if you think about a gene expression of the DNA is translated to RNA, and the DNA is transcribed to RNA, and then the RNA is translated to protein. In the middle, there are a couple of steps. And so one of the things that an ASO can do, a GapmeR ASO, is that it can destroy that RNA before it gets translated. Another thing that can happen is that there can be a mistake between the transcription and the translation step. And so the ASO can fix that mistake.
What do you think is missing in ALS research?
Biomarkers. I think trying to figure out quickly whether or not a therapy is going to be effective is really an important step. That waiting a long period of time to see whether ALS-FRS is going to move and whether that's actually the best measurement, and certainly waiting for patients to die is not a great endpoint. So.
How would you explain to somebody what a biomarker is, exactly how it functions?
So when I get asked about a biomarker, I often think about things like heart attack and stroke as opposed to blood pressure. So your blood pressure is something that you can monitor very easily, but as a biomarker for the possibility of a heart attack, it took a while to show that actually correlated. So now we can measure your blood pressure, and we know if it's high, we can bring it down, and that can reduce your risk of heart attack. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, is the best analogy that I have for the difference between a biomarker and an endpoint. So.
What do you think's ahead for ALS research in the coming years?
I think significant advancements in actually extending people's lives and making ALS a chronic disease. I mean, no offense to the foundation, but I would like to put it out of business. So,
well, should we make that much progress? Yes, I hear what you're saying for sure. Do you feel that since Target ALS has been founded 8 years ago that we've helped accelerate research?
Absolutely. I was actually just talking to Manish, and I didn't even realize this, that they funded some of the early work that was done in Kevin and Clifford's lab, and that early work became part of QurAlis, and now we are funded to extend that work and advance it toward the clinic. So I think it's really phenomenal.
That's terrific. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time, Dan.
My pleasure.